All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Kenyatta Hills, and I am doing a professional development training tonight on professional standards for virtual educational leaders. I, I already explained to Lindsay, but I want everyone to know where I got this information from. My sister, two terms ago, she was working on her master's in educational leadership, and she left this packet in our office on professional standards for educational leaders. So what I did was I just changed the verbiage because all the information in here was very, very valuable to us as educational leaders. So I just changed a little bit of the verbiage and added in things about working virtual and then let it go from there. But the initial professional standards, there are 10 of them. But when I looked over everything and made it for our training, I knocked it down to 7 standards. Okay, so you guys will see that. So I'm going to move right along. So tonight's overview, we're going to talk about the purpose of virtual professional standards. Why do virtual educational leaders need standards? What makes the standards professional? The link between educational leadership and student learning, the role of professional standards in virtual educational leadership practice and its outcomes. And then the last bit we're going to go over are the 7 professional standards for virtual educational leaders. Purpose of virtual professional standards. The purpose of the professional standards for virtual educational leaders is to guide virtual educational leaders like us when creating an online learning environment that is student-centric, outlines foundational principles of leadership, and achieve more equitable student learning outcomes. Why do virtual educational leaders need standards? Technologies are advancing faster than ever nowadays. Educational institutions are actively preparing students for a global economy that is transforming the 21st century educational environment. We see a lot of that happening now with a lot of online schools and a lot of brick and mortar universities utilizing virtual education or online education. Virtual educational leaders need new standards to guide their practice in directions that is productive and beneficial for students. The new standards are created as a result of an extensive process that took an in-depth look at the new virtual educational leadership landscape. What makes the standards professional? The standards define the nature and quality of work done by virtual educational leaders. The professional standards are created to guide virtual educational practice or practices, guidance as to how educational leaders are hired, prepared, developed, supervised, and evaluated. Inform educational leaders of government policies and regulations, as well as achieve the outcomes that the job role demands and the public expects. Link between virtual educational leadership and student learning. So the visual that we have here, we have student learning in the middle because every standard from standard 1 to standard 7 feeds into our student learning aspect or student learning area, as well as information from student learning feeding back into those standards, making sure that everything is aligned. The student learning is aligned with whatever specific standard that is correlated in this circle here. So the first standard that we have is standard 1, which is mission, visions, and core values. Our next slide, no, our slide after our next slide will go into the specifics of each standard. But standard 1 is mission, vision, and core values. Standard 2, ethics and professional norms. Standard 3, equity and cultural responsiveness. Standard 4, curriculum, instructor, and assessment. So you see the arrows going to and fro. So information that is supporting student learning is fed into student learning, and any feedback or anything that needs to be revised and that standard 4, it'll feed back into that area where it says curriculum, instructor, and assessment. Then our 5th standard is community of care and support of students. We know that's very important. Standard 6, professional capacity of school personnel. And then our last standard, professional community for teachers and staff. The role of professional standards in virtual educational leadership, practice, and outcomes. So again, we have a second visual, and this is showing everything from start to end when it comes to the outcomes of the professional standards. So the first area we're going to look at is here, my arrow, is professional leader standards. And we see that the professional leader standards feed into public expectations, policies, when it comes to preparation, certification, professional development, and evaluation. It also feeds into leadership practice. It goes into the system of supporting institutions. That's in the areas of higher education, foundations, and NGOs. Excuse me, that's non-government organizations, NGOs. And professional leader standards also feed into professional associations like National Black Accountants Association, I'm just trying to remember the ones that I was a part of, National Black MBA, those type of professional associations that help support the professional leader's job. So we also see that the information that is fed from professional leader standards into those elements all get fed into leadership practice, except for public expectation. It also feeds and shares information between policy area when it comes to evaluation, professional development, and preparation, as well as professional association. They also blend in with information from the system of supporting institutions. So information are sent from those, I'm going to call them elements, and they feed right into the leadership practice part. That's where everything that is done in action, in theory, and in thought by the educational leader virtually is all made into a practice that is student-centered, and that's going to help not only support the standards that are being implemented by the university or the university educational leadership, but also helps supports the leadership outcomes, whatever those outcomes may be. Those outcomes may be increasing student enrollment, or finding out which group of students demographics should we focus more on when it comes to building up our student body, especially when enforcing the standards that are going to support them in their educational endeavors. Now, the next 2 slides are just going to explain each one of the 7 standards that we covered in the previous 2 slides. So professional standards for virtual educational leaders. Standard 1, mission, vision, and core values. That's where effective virtual educational leaders develop, advocate, and enact a shared mission, vision, and core values of high quality education and academic success and well-being of each student. Standard 2, ethics and professional norms. Effective virtual educational leaders act ethically and according to professional norms to promote each student's academic success and well-being. Standard 3, equity and cultural responsiveness. That's where effective virtual educational leaders strive for equity of education, opportunity, and culturally responsive practices to promote each student's academic success and well-being. Standard 4, curriculum, instruction, and assessment. Effective virtual educational leaders develop and support intellectually rigorous and coherent systems of curriculum, instruction, and assessment to promote each student's academic success and well-being. Standard 5, community of care and support for students. Effective virtual educational leaders cultivate an inclusive, caring, and supportive school or university community that promotes the academic success and well-being for each student. Standard 6, professional capacity of school personnel. Effective virtual educational leaders develop the professional capacity and practice of school or university personnel to promote each student's academic success and well-being. And then our last standard, standard 7, professional community for teachers and staff. And that's where effective virtual leaders foster a professional community of teachers, professionals, staff who are involved, and other professional staff to promote each student's academic success and well-being. And this is the citation for the packet. If anyone wanted to read through and get more understanding about professional standards for educational leaders. Do you all have any questions?